to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made.
And I'm Ross, creative director at Epic Made. And we're the hosts of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Marcy Selsberg of Blah Blah Blah, Lisa Larson-Kelly of Quantios, and Jason Swank of Agency Mastery and the Smart Agency Masterclass podcast.
We are forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and we're always looking for more supporters. As always, this episode is brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a collaborative of expert artists and animators who help brands tell powerful and engaging stories. We've demonstrated our expertise in visual storytelling, fantasy pop culture, and detailed world building in collaboration with some of the biggest entertainment brands on planet Earth, including Sci-Fi, Nickelodeon, and TNT. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign.
So with us today, we have Justin Ahrens. Justin is a passionate leader with a vision for transforming the world through creativity and innovation. For 25 years, he has been the driving force behind the Marrow brand agency Rule 29, an award-winning creative company determined to make creative matter. Justin is an international speaker, author, teacher, LinkedIn learning instructor, podcast host, and self-proclaimed do-gooder who encourages others to look at the world from a different perspective. Through his strategic and design-oriented approach, he has been a leader in various social causes and has been recognized by prominent competitions and publications, including Fast Company, AIGA, Communication Arts, and the Webby Awards. That is quite a pedigree, Justin. Glad to have you on here, man.
Oh, hey, it's great to be on the show. And you know, I'm used to the Jason thing. I don't know what it is about my name, but all my life, it's like it's Jason or Jeff. I don't know where the Jeff comes from. Jason, me because the J and the S, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And the N at the end as well.
Yeah,
kind of gets. We also just had Jason Swank on yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's just in my. It's just
sounds like that. I get it, man. I had to give you a little guff about it because.
Oh yeah, no man.
It's one of those things, you know. I think everyone's name or sometimes your company's name always has something that comes up and so, yeah, it's good. Hey, it's good to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. And, you know, you and I just connected relatively recently. We've been traveling in the same circles, it seems, for a bit. We got quite a few of the same friends through AIGA and a couple other, you know, connections there in this greater design community that we're a part of. But so, you know, we hit it off real good, but I want to go ahead and get into a couple little quick hitters real fast so everyone can get to know you a little better, and then we'll jump into the subject. So, how long have you been doing this and what brought you to your industry? So no, we said, 25 years, but was it predate that and how'd you get there? So.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I was one of those classic sort of nerdy art kids, right? I drew on my notebook and I just saw things visually and I just didn't quite find like a place for me to fit. I just, when I was a kid, I just didn't feel I moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I learned two things. One, I learned to use my art and drawing skills to help make friends. And then I also joined like team sports, right? To get to know people. It was like, there's those two things. And as time went on and I got into high school, I was one of those kids. I was sort of friends with everyone, because I took all the art classes, right? And then I also liked to play sports, and so I kind of had this great spectrum. So I was really grateful for that. Actually, in fact, what's really interesting, and you guys can probably relate to this, the things that maybe we thought made us weird or different when we were younger are really what make us awesome, as we got into certain things.
It's funny how that turns out, isn't it?
Yeah. And so, I loved art and drawing and actually, sports is kind of what took me towards college. I went to college really in my mind to play football and basketball. Ended up getting hurt, and luckily I picked a school that had a great art program, and that's where I discovered design, and everything changed.
Wow,
so that was a while ago. That was I started my career in 1994 professionally.
Oh, well. Great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, you got a couple years on me, but I had a similar kind of upbringing. I did a lot of sports, a lot of art. I actually stopped doing art after like middle school. I tried to go on like the ODC thing and like it's like some art school, and I didn't get in. I got to like the first step, and then they're like, anyways. But yeah, I totally can relate to having a little nerd and a little kind of jock and kind of blending them together. It's fun. All right, let's see. So, what's top of mind in your industry right now?
Well, for our team, what we see a lot of is how does AI impact both our workflow, but also what the offerings to our clients. So we work with a couple tech companies. In fact, we just helped launch a new product that was, when we started the project just 5-6 months ago, there was no AI engine involved in it, and we went to market with it included, right? So this is one of those things where seems to be kind of all around us,
everywhere.
And to be honest, I have just absolutely loved the Twitter X Elon Musk saga. It is the coolest brand soap opera happening in front of us right now.
It's very dramatic.
I laugh about. I mean, I'm laughing and I'm sad and then make me think about it, and it's just like, because I have such huge respect for his SpaceX program and whether you like or don't like Tesla, I still think it was revolutionary. And then Twitter is just just a dumpster fire.
It's so bad. And just the, I don't know, like you said, part of me is really sad about it, and part of me is just like flabbergasted by the entertainment value it's providing.
Yeah.
It's just I actually didn't have a social media presence until 2020. Most of my art, I've been doing art in some capacity for forever. I resolved with my friend to create a video game or some sort of story in like 7th grade, and I basically trained to do that until my professional career. And I met Carl in 2013, but directly out of college. So I've really never had the need to have like a public portfolio.
Sure.
And so I started social media in 2020, and the place I got traction, probably just due to the fact that it was still kind of had high traction, was Twitter, right? Like Instagram has kind of slowly been kiboshing artists for a while now. And so it was sad to me to see that like it's just burning to the ground.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. So I don't know how long it will be from our recording to when we launch, but no matter what that time span is, everyone here should go and look up Esther Crawford. She worked at Twitter. She just got laid off, and she wrote a brilliant thread Twitter X post. Well, I don't know what we call them anymore. About her experience working with Elon, and she said something really interesting. She's just like he's not something that someone who should be vilified or raised up. He's just doing this thing. And one statement she said that I thought was really interesting. To your point, we don't know how the saga is going to work out yet. The one thing that's interesting is he does have enough expendable income to make a bunch of these mistakes. And maybe right the ship, but who the heck knows? Yeah. I just think, from a greater standpoint, Carl, going back to your original question, if I was to be, I think our profession kind of is ridiculous when it comes to hashing on people who do brands. Yeah. I mean, I think the X is great. No, I think it's brutal. And I hope I feel like in some ways it's a bit, and something's gonna be re-released. I don't know. But I will say one of the things that we talk about, actually going back to your question about kind of what's on our mind in the industry, is we have seen what another thing that kind of bummed me out is you see these brands that have a lot of character to them, and then they're relaunched and it feels like the characters kind of squeezed out of them. Ooh. And that's interesting. That's just kind of an interesting trend right now in our industry. And I'm not harshing on any creatives. I'm not in that room. I don't know what the brief is. I don't know how the decision-making process is. But it feels like in general, that's something that happens. And so we talk a lot about that as a creative team of, how much do we need to care about that?
Right.
And you know, how does that impact what we do?
Okay, very interesting.
Love that.
Yeah, I theorize in my head that Elon is trying to see if he can have the biggest company in the world run by the least number of people using mostly AI. That's what I think he's trying to do with that. So that's my theory. It's going to be trying to be the first multi-billion-dollar company run by like 3 people.
Yes. Well, and again, not to stay in this rabbit hole, but I read about he's wanted this idea to exist for years.
Right.
And he wants it to be like this sort of catch-all company. I don't even know what that means, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's supposed to be ran by robots. We'll find out soon enough.
Maybe Elon is a robot. You know, we just don't know yet. All right, last one. Tell us a project that you are most proud of.
You know, normally I would shrink from that question, but there is one that in my career that I easily answer and with that question. That is, and this kind of goes, you know, to some of the stuff that we'll probably touch on. But 2006, 2007, I went to Africa for the first time. We were doing some branding work for some NGOs and nonprofits in Central and Eastern Africa. And through that experience, it's really expanded my worldview, shifted how I see the impact of our work. And in 2013, we were on a trip in Uganda and we were doing a water project. And I asked the director, I was like, how much does it cost? Just, do you have a dollars and cents understanding and perspective of what it takes to actually make an impact in someone's life? And he's like, yes, it's $40 a person. It's like, $40? Are you kidding me? He's like, no, $40. We can give someone education and training to help them live a healthier life, the rest of their life. I was like, $40? Like, geez, you know, I you know, that's like what, 4 Starbucks runs or whatever it is. It just, I couldn't get my mind around it. And so
it's like one dinner in the States.
right.
Fast food at that.
Yeah. So at the time we were trying to figure out Rule 29, like how to use social media better. Like one of the things that we've always tried to do, like, you know, even like Threads, for example, like we have a Threads account. We're not super active on it, but we're trying to learn it and just see if we care about it. But, you know, the same way, like when blogs started, we started a blog just, you know, if we're going to do it for a client, we really want to understand it. And so we're in this area of how do we take social media to the next level in storytelling, branding, et cetera. And so I was flying home from that trip and I just kept writing this down. And I was just like, I wonder if we could commit to impacting a village. And the villages that we were working with are about 1,000 people. So that's 40 grand. Could we raise 40 grand through social media to do a couple of things? One, to raise advocacy for the water crisis, learn how to do social media better, and also sort of be the client and the agency at the same time. Now, I didn't have $40,000 laying around. So if we didn't raise this money, someone named Justin was selling his car and writing a check, right? So what we did is we designed this idea called Wheels for Water. And at that particular year, I was supposed to speak in Boston at the Howell Conference. And so I said, wouldn't it be amazing if I give this talk about the impact of design? And then at the end of my talk, I rip off like these warm-up pants and I have bike gear on and I ride my bike out of the convention center and ride my bike from Boston to Chicago. It was over about 1,000 miles, 1,027 to be exact. And if we get someone to sponsor each mile for $40, we'd raise that money, right? So that's more or less what we did. I spared people me ripping my pants off my bike gear.
Oh man, wanted to see that.
Yeah. So we started after the conference. We started, and we didn't filter any water of our own the second we started on the bike. So we'd find open lakes. We'd be in people's front yards. It was just kind of hilarious. But it wasn't for a comedic aspect. What it was is how can we lock arms with those people we're serving? Because we take advantage of water. Because even though we had to find our water every day, I could still use a restroom, right? I could still wash my face in a sink, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to raise 40 grand. So we created a brand, created a website, did a whole 8-9 months worth of storytelling. Every time I went somewhere for a meeting, I would ask a local group if I could give them a pitch. So I gave talks to 5 people. I gave talks to 50 people. I did people's work lunch hours, right? And in the end, we ended up raising 106,000. So it was a phenomenal project. And then over the next several years, the organization kept asking us to do it. So we did it for 6 years. And right before COVID, we gifted the property to the organization called Life Water. And it hasn't been sort of started back up. I think it lost a ton of momentum over COVID, but over the 6 years, myself and a group of people, we raised over $1 million.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hell yeah.
I would be most proud of that as well. So that might be the best. That might be the best answer we've gotten so far.
Oh, right on. Well, hey, it's early, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
So, and actually that does segue really beautifully into kind of what I wanted to talk about today, which is essentially how creative or creativity impacts communities beyond just entertainment value. It's very easy to imagine, a movie or a TV show or even an advertisement providing some sort of value to either the product or entertainment. But your story is one fantastic example of how you can use artistry in a way that isn't just for capitalism or entertainment. And so, as an advocate for that, and someone who talks a lot about the impact of creativity, I figured this would be a great jumping off point for you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm extremely passionate about it, as you'll hear in a minute. But I also want to give a caveat to a couple things. I am one of those people that absolutely believes that people from any part of the world can impact their community, a larger scope, or someone, on the other side of the earth. Like, that's possible today.
Yeah.
Right.
Do I think creative can change people's lives? It can make a massive impact. 100%. I've seen it happen. I can share ideas around it. But I want to also say that over the several years, I've learned that, it's important for us to understand the overall impact and the reason why we're doing things as well. Right. So, and that's been something that's been shown to me over and over and over again. With that said, I'll share a couple examples of not only how I've seen it happen, but the different ways it can go on. So,
yeah, absolutely.
From a larger scale, right? So you talked about movies, you brought that up. I'm a huge cinephile. I try to watch 100 movies a year that I've never seen.
Nice. Love that.
I'm a geek. I track them. I rank them. I do all that stuff. A couple people, we talk about movies.
We need to have a movie. You and I need to have a movie conversation because I'm very similar to.
All right. So Letterboxd is my app, by the way. We'll talk about it. You can sign up for an account. This is not a paid advertisement, but I love them so much. So there's no doubt, I think we could agree that you could watch a movie and the movie can catch fire and it can really, expand people's perspectives on a certain topic, a point in history, and whether that could be like political or, about race, whatever. We've all, you understand.
Or even just moral or ethical, right? Sure. Like there's a number of ways that you can change people's perspective through entertainment. Yeah.
100%. Wheels of Water, for example, I think we made hundreds of thousands of impressions. We raised a bunch of money. We took people over there and that's all great. But really we impacted over 20,000 lives. That, it was, and I'm just grateful to be a part of that. Right. So can design, in particular in my area, can that make impact? 100%. I can even show you from a smaller level that I think is really brilliant. So one of the ways that we as an organization, we're trying to figure out what is design for good? What does social impact really look like? So again, this is not full-time for us. This is a passion of ours. This is part of our DNA, but we are not we're a B corporation, but we're not a 100% social impact design for good agency, right? So we do work for profit. We do work for big corporations. And our goal has always been to balance profit for purpose. What I mean by that is we want to be as profitable as we can as an organization. So we can do a couple things. One, we can pay our team as much as possible. And two, can we take that money and reinvest into our community, both our internal community, right? And then that community around us. What that can look like is doing projects that maybe are low funded, have no funding, and we can take our perspective and our skills and help that organization or cause make a greater impact. The cool thing about that is almost every time we've done that, I feel selfish because I feel like I've learned more than we given. Now, they don't say that, but that's really how I feel. So here's a great example. One of the ways that anyone get involved in this space is you could go and make a relationship with a university and a professor or some sort of program and say, hey, what can I do to make an impact? So I went to Kent State and Notre Dame. I ended up having two friends that were there, and they said, hey, we want to figure out ways to use design and creative thinking to make an impact in a community. So at Kent State, I work with their senior graduate program. And what we're trying to find out is how can we better communicate? And this ended up being in South Sudan. At the time, South Sudan had just ended a conflict that had been going on for many, many years. Right. It was a really rough place. And we were going to have an opportunity to go and have access there and meet some field doctors and really understand how to better help them communicate. And what I mean by that is there was language barriers. Some of the people that were indigenous to the area didn't know how to communicate how they felt. And so through months and months of research, we ended up figuring out like this visual sort of like playing card deck of ailments that was based on iconography that had to be culturally appropriate for that region. So they could look through these cards and point and basically say, my baby has this issue, or I feel this way, or whatever else. Oh, wow. And it was like,
that's really cool.
I was like, I was weeping because I was just like, wow, this is a literal example of how design or art can literally shift people's lives, right? And in some cases, save people's lives. So when people say that's bullshit, you can't do that, I just gonna be like, yeah, I understand how you can feel that, and you can get too zealous for sure. But there are examples of doing that. So for me, and this is just my perspective, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a creative, if that is something that really inspires you, or if you really want to do something that makes some sort of impact, to be able to do projects like that really opens up your perspective of the value you both have as a creative, but also what the impact can make in community. I can't stop to recommend trying to get into that space more, because I think what happens is, and I mean, you guys know this, we're all creatives. Like, how many times you sat there and thought to yourself, where in the world did that idea come from?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It comes from this beautiful, magical place. And the fact that you get to share and impact someone's life, even if it's to make them happy or whatever, it's just, I don't know. I think it's really special.
Yeah. I mean, creativity is at its core problem solving, right? There is, to a degree, even drawing a picture is trying to solve a series of problems that you just set out for yourself. And so using it as a methodology to solve communal problems or community problems, or make community more functional, or easier on people, it is sort of an easy leap when you really think about it, right? Like when you really sit down and say, okay, well, the process of doing this for an advertisement versus the process of doing this to help a community better communicate, they're not too different.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. There's definitely a connection there.
Yeah.
And I think to maybe expand, your opening statement, I think when we create something, we're communicating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And whatever target or whatever goal we have for that communication is really, really interesting, right? On the kind of impact it can have. Mm-hmm. And so, for me as a kid, if you would have told me when I was getting yelled at because I was drawing my math test instead of solving, the equations, that I would be, half around the world in a context that is overwhelming, and how could I ever, as a suburban, white dad of 4 make any sort of impact, I would have been like, I have zero idea. Right. And so basically creativity and design took me there. I just followed the story that it opened up for me and my family, and I'm forever grateful for it.
And I think there's something in what you said before where, this isn't your full-time effort, right? And I think that's it's somewhat of a stigma, I feel like, with people in our community, the creative community, is that they, at large, I would say, the average creative is struggling to kind of feed themselves before they're thinking about, oh, I'm going to do this for no money, or I'm going to do this as a nonprofit or something like that. But it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? And that's something that I don't know that everyone is considering, that you've brought to my attention just now, is that, this, you can make profit so that you have the room to be able to do something good that might be your passion, or to help a cause that you might care about personally. And it doesn't have to be this choice to convert your business or your lifestyle toward nonprofits as a whole, or toward this lifestyle as a whole, if it's not sustainable for you. You can still make these small choices that impact other people.
And every level, that's true. Right? Because I know, like, years ago when we were doing some of this work, and Wheels for Water, had gotten some traction, and I was going around and talking about it a little bit, and I was really grateful for that. There was times, if I was to be honest, I felt guilty that it wasn't our full-time gig, but I also had not figured out how to do that in a way. Well, first of all, I wouldn't have been able to do it, and I just would have been exhausted, because I'm way too impassionate about so many things that if it was all my work, right? Like, I needed to do a corporate brand sometimes, that, not that it wasn't emotive, but it wasn't the same level of emotion, right?
Right.
And so for a long time, I felt guilty about that. But, Ross, you really crystallized one of the things that I believe in, is that you can do both. And even if it's like a small project a year, a little project a year, or a big project a year, or maybe a project every other year, I think that, and let's be honest too, there's nothing wrong with also running your agency and doing that work and making money, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think, all of those things are possible, and it just comes down to, what you're passionate about, and, just really what you want to, not sacrifice necessarily, but how you want to direct your energy in that space.
I love what you said, that you guys build your business in a way that, there's some clients that come through that have plenty of money, and you're going to make them even more money than you're going to, charge them. So you're going to create this profit, but keeping in mind that, like, you guys like to use that profit to build the communities and to give back both internally and externally. I think some people might need to hear that it's okay to charge as much money as you can get to some clients, if that helps you feel better about the way that you're going to be philanthropic and give back with it. And again, like, the work we do provides value to these organizations. So getting paid as much of that value as we can, that makes sense, I think.
Yeah. And I think in the creative industry, we've looked at profit, this is my perspective again, as a dirty word.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
And especially when it comes to work that's being done for a nonprofit, or for, that sort of perspective or service or a calling we're trying to promote. And I think that's insane.
Right.
And the reason, but I used to be in that camp for a while. And the reason why I feel it's insane now is, like Rule 29 over the last couple of years, we've really had to grind it out. Like, I made some really bad mistakes as a leader. And I didn't change our perspective on some things, and just because we've been around for 22 years doesn't mean that I was insulated from making bad decisions, right? Now, luckily, we got through it, and we've had some resiliency, and we've kind of restructured in different ways. But I wanted to say something, Carl, really just to clarify. So I think all of our businesses should be profitable, and we should be proud of that. We should be wanting to make profitable businesses, because if we are not being profitable as individuals, well, that's hurting us as and our families, but also it's hurting the industry, right? And so we have a minimum profit margin, and if we can't hit that minimum profit margin, we won't do the work. And so we used to years ago, we used to give a percentage of our work away, and I was really proud of that. And then what would happen is that started to get out of control, and we were then grinding and doing some work for some organizations that we would have never done because we wanted to keep that status. And so then we switched into like, we'll do it at a discount, but we insist on helping you budget for full price, whether it's for us or another agency in the future, because that's just healthy for the organization, right? And then it's kind of evolved from there. So now we'll do a certain amount of work for people at a discount, but it still has our minimum margin in there. And the reason is because I was hurting us as an organization that way. And so I just think it's really important for us to talk about that, because, when I go to conferences, and you go to financial, talk, everyone's like, how do I make money? Why is this happening? Why is this client happening? And I understand all those conversations. I've been in that space. And I can tell you one of the silver linings of COVID is that it's really shifted. My wife actually is CEO of Rule 29. She runs it. I'm the chief brand officer of Rule 29 and some of the other companies we're a part of. And what's been really impressive is like, she's like, no, profit is awesome. Profit means we can do so many things. Profit means we can go. Profit means we can go on vacation. Profit means that we can say no to certain jobs. Profit means we can give back to the community. And so that's really the message that's my yay profit flag that I'm going to be flying everywhere. Right. And I think that, I don't know why. And, I think Ross, you were kind of alluding to this earlier. I don't know why as artists and creatives at times, we just are okay not making profit, right? And I think the more we can value ourselves, right? And granted, let me say this too. I've been in the case where I've needed to take work. Don't get me wrong. Like,
we've all been there.
But I'm saying, as all things being equal, if you strive that direction, then I believe that you will find the right footing and be able to keep doing the things you love to do, which is really what we want, right? Yeah. We want to be able to continue to create in a way that feeds our soul, feeds us and our families, or whatever. And that's really what I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's reframing that money conversation. Sorry, Ross, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just like, money's a tool that allows you to, expand what it is that you want to do, right? Whether that's give back or make more things or go on vacation or whatever that is, right? Like, so I think that, the two-part problem here is that we have all of us in the creative field have a true passion for it. And literally, if we didn't need money, we probably wouldn't charge any money because, hey, look, if I'm independently wealthy already, like I don't even need money. I'm going to just do the projects I want to do. And if that aligns with you and me, and then cool, like, that kind of, I'm not saying you should ever do that, by the way, because that would undermine the market. But what I'm saying is like, we have this passion for this work that like, money's not the motivating factor. It's the love of the thing. And I think that allows us to undermine its value, which I really just want to make sure that we all drill home that's a terrible thing for everybody. And it just makes us less impactful.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny that's exactly what I was going to say, for the record. It's just the idea. Like, the tendency for us to hate the word profit is because we didn't get, like, most creatives or artists, they didn't choose this job because they wanted money. They chose this job because it was an inherent passion of theirs, or it was part of who they were. And they would, speaking personally and somewhat, communally, I'm sure that, as a unofficial spokesperson, I'm sure that a huge part of the community would do it without getting paid. I mean, there's an enormous amount of people who do, for the betterment of the community or not. And so I think that's part of the reason why we don't like the word profit, because not only do we feel like we're getting to do this thing that we like to do, that we like, it's a passion for us to do, but it's also drilled into us from external factors. I mean, how many times have you heard oh, well, you should charge less because you like doing this work, right? Like, or a family member comes by and they're like, oh, well, you just do this for free. You love doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Or any clients say that. So, it's not just the fear of the word profit and this idea that, oh, I don't want to be a business, because that's a big part of creatives shying away from profit, is they don't want to run this as a business. They just want to draw stuff, or they just want to design stuff. But you're getting a constant exposure of the, hey, you should just kind of do this because you are creative and because you're wired this way. And you wouldn't ask a mechanic to do that. You wouldn't ask an architect to do that, even though there's plenty of mechanics who love what they do. They wanted to do this since they were young. It's a thing that it's hardwired into them in the same way.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I usually telling me the story, I'm reflecting back to a conversation I had early on in Rule 29's career, and I had a really brilliant intern, and I wanted to hire him, and everyone wanted him, right, in the Chicagoland area. And I'm in the Chicagoland suburbs, right? And so, I'm taking this job, this really cool place. And I remember I went to go visit him and kind of check the place out, and it was great. And he goes, hey, you don't pay people enough. And we were kind of shooting baskets at this place. And I left and I was like kind of pissed and devastated about it, because I was paying them as much as we could. Mm-hmm. What I wish I could go back and tell younger Justin is that I had the ability to pay people more had I been more concerned on being more profitable.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until, honestly, COVID hit that I started realizing, hey, we've helped make millions of dollars for companies, and that's a value. So why are we not charging more and having more margin, right? Because, for us, like, one of the things that was challenging for us is when we had some people leave our agency, we got hit part of where designers were getting massive salaries at jobs, that they could do remote in different sectors. And I'm just like, I can't compete. Like, I had one designer come to me at times, said, hey, I want to stay here, but you need to match his salary. And it was like more than I made. Mm-hmm. And I was sort of destroyed, because I was just like, maybe this is it. Maybe we're done. Maybe we can't compete. Right. Like, and it wasn't until, we had met our new partners that I really had a better understanding of, hey, we did all these things really well. To your point, Ross, like, we did a lot of things really well from a creative standpoint, and we actually ran our business better than average, right? But what we did was we didn't adjust and understand business well enough, right? And so, now if someone asks me what's one of your most important things you do at your studio, and I'm going to say we work on being profitable. Yeah. And other creatives look at me like, you're what? You're not talking about the cool brand you're doing. You're not talking about the cool thing. It's like, we will, but that doesn't matter if it's not profitable. Because if it's not profitable, I'm not staying in business, and I'm not paying my team when I should pay them, right? And so,
or the concept that, like, oh, you sold out or whatever,
right?
It's funny because when you put it, it's funny when it doesn't translate in most people's minds to small businesses or medium-sized businesses. Obviously, corporations get a bad rap for obvious reasons, but
right.
It's funny when you translate it, when you bring it down to one family, how silly it sounds when you say, oh, well, Jim gave all of his money away to charity, and so now he can't feed his family. And it's like, well, yeah, he did a good thing. He gave all of his money away to charity. I'm sure that helped a bunch of people, but now he can't feed his family. And so why shame a business or a business owner or creative agency, or even just independent solo artists for trying to do that thing, for being profitable, when you wouldn't shame, Jim or whoever for wanting to have enough money to feed his and his own, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, when you really think about it, right? why even have a design business or creative agency if you're not going to be profitable? Like it's like, I think ad agencies, they probably get a bad rap because, I think in general, people think they have bloated, budgets or whatever else. And,
Sure.
and maybe they do, but, at least they, were making the kind of dollars that ideally would kind of, reward the rest of the staff. I mean, you said some earlier about, I can't remember if it's you, Carl, or Ross, or maybe both said, is just like, we would do the work just because it's in our DNA. We have to do work. We have to do creative work like that. And that's true. And I remember there was even a time when we were trying to figure out, just thinking about salaries, and I had an advisor who didn't know our profession at all. And he's like, that's all you're going to pay your team. Right. And then someone in the meeting had said, well, a lot of people who just love doing the work. And that was the first time I realized, it's like, to your point about the family, like, yeah, but you still have to have a great wage, right?
Yeah.
You still want to, otherwise people aren't going to stay here. And so I'm disappointed it took me so long to really get all of those ducks in a row. So one of the things that I will share whenever I can is like, hey, here are the things. We did a lot of things really well, and we did things not as well, right? And that we can improve on. And so, for me, it's like, let's talk about design for good and the impact it can make in the world, but let's also talk about being responsible business owners and trying to be as profitable as possible, right? There's always going to be someone out there that's going to pay more than I can, right? And so I'm trying to be that person. I'm trying to say, hey, as an organization, we're going to be as competitive as we can with salaries and benefits and that sort of thing. All we ask you to show up, work hard, communicate, let's have fun, let's see what we can do. And then if we're a successful agency, then we can also continue to do work that impacts the world. That would be awesome.
Yeah. And I think something you're touching on here, without saying the buzzword, is that the culture of your company is monstrously important, right? Like, and I know that that's what's allowed me to build a team over the years. Like, I've never been able to pay Ross more than like the best in the whole world, right? Like, someone could easily, but we have a culture here that like builds a family type relationship, and everyone has the freedom that I would like to have. And I built this whole business around the same idea. I was like, how would I like to be if I was going to join someone's company? What would that look like? That was awesome for me. And we've been doing remote work since we started. Like we had an office just to like have an office, and now no one even cares anymore. It's like, you see my wife and my son running back and forth, and it's like, that's whatever. Like that's who I work hard for. They can get up in the shot every once in a while if they need to. Like it's, and yeah, it's just really about like creating an environment that, makes someone feel compensated and live. You got to have enough money to live and feel like you're being well compensated for your skills, right? You don't want to massively undermine someone, and pay them as much as you can. But I've seen firsthand that people will stay with you because the culture is amazing and they get what they need emotionally and mentally from a nice balanced workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gave a talk several years ago, and I would add a dimension to it now, and it would then have to do with benefits and that sort of thing. But my theory was that culture is more important than creative. And what I mean by that is, if you have a really fantastic culture, then, for example, Ross is going to feel safe, which is one of the key things we want to have in our jobs. He's going to feel seen and trusted, which is something else that will give Ross energy and desire to stay, but it also will allow him to perform at the highest level, right? And so when people talk about culture match, I understand it from a deeper standpoint. We're talking about human connection. Yeah. So what kind of connection am I going to have to this organization? Because if I feel connected, I'm going to give it my all. And as we know, as creatives, if we're giving our all, that's when magic happens, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's really where culture is. So whatever culture looks like for particular organizations out there, I would make the case that it really has to do with that human connection, that heart connection. Like going back to that Elon Musk conversation, Esther, her quote was something along the lines that she believes true leadership happens when it's both the head and the heart. Yeah. I think she said heart first. I'm going to lead with the heart first and the head follows, whatever. And I think that's really true. And I think we understand that because we're tricky little creatures, aren't we? And so
especially creatives.
right. And we have different layers that we really want to feel that we can share, right? And so
absolutely,
I think that's where the culture thing comes in.
100%. And now that we're full circle with the Elon Musk tie-in, we are getting close on time. So I want to ask one last question to you, Justin. I almost said Jason again. Jesus. But first, we want to point people to your website at rule29.com. You've talked extensively about what you guys do over there. I'd encourage everybody to go check it out. But our last question being, is there anyone that's sort of top of mind, any sort of colleague, podcast, mentor or inspiration that you've had throughout your career you want to shout out?
Yeah. First of all, thanks again, gentlemen, for having me on your show. This has been a blast. I feel like we could talk for like 4 more hours.
We could, I'm sure.
So I'm going to have you, just quick shout out. I'm a co-host on the Creative Shit Show podcast, which is really focused on the creative industry. Love people to check that out. We'll have you guys on there for sure. I have a personal project that I do. What's not personal with Rule 29. It's called Design of Podcast. And where I really explore what story people have been a part to get to where they're at, right? Or to finish something. It's just really fun. But I will tell you, I want to shout out actually my friend and Carl's Gage Mitchell. Gage is just an incredible human being, great designer. I was one of 5 people that worked with him for the AIJ Path to Impact. As long as I've known this guy, he's had a desire to just make the world a better place. He sees it on so many levels, and especially in his design practice. He has a great podcast called Evolve CPG.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people to really check that out, check him out. His company is called Modern Species. And he really just cares about both, strategic and sustainable design and branding. Right.
Yeah.
And
we actually had him on the podcast.
Oh, there we go. And he didn't talk about me being his influence. What the hell?
He actually did.
That's how you're here.
Listen, I just exposed myself that I didn't listen to that episode. That's embarrassing.
It's not out yet, so don't worry.
It's not out yet.
Well, that's
no, we're good. Yeah, it's so funny. He shouted you out, and he was saying that you were doing great stuff. And you guys were great friends. And yeah, it's so funny that you did that. We actually did the intro sequence, the animated intro sequence to his podcast.
For both, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we love Gage. He actually, he's the one who connected us to you, and yeah, I mean, mutual shout out all around for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, that was the next line. Thanks to Gage for introducing us.
Yeah.
But
nailed it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right, Justin. Well, dude, we really appreciate you coming on the show. You've been such a fun guest to talk to. And we'll definitely stay in touch. And thank you for being here.
Looking forward to both of us being on the Creative Shit Show. I think that's going to be so fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It'll be fun. Drinks are required, but
I'm cool with that.
It could be coffee, tea, or an adult beverage, whatever you choose.
Okay. All right.
All right.
You can make all 3.
Let's get wild with it.
That's right.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
friends. See you guys next time.
All right.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.